But when it comes to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars maybe on a house, how do you lowball offer? And if you do, how can you even get them to take the lowball offer?
Yeah, so this is something that not very many people know about, so I think this will be helpful to the people listening out there. So a few things to consider when you're considering trying to get a great deal on a place and trying to get a big discount.
Been a while since I've got to do this, but here he is, your realty expert, John Brodeen.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. Yeah.
Been a while.
I know. So I was supposed to be on 3 weeks ago, and that was the day our daughter was born.
Congratulations on the new baby Kendall.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, everything went great. She's healthy. Mom's healthy. Couldn't ask for anything more. So
you're going to try one more time to get a boy?
No, I don't think so. That's not the plan.
I just had
right
to get
now,
that in there, you know.
Yeah.
But good. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's happy. How's mom doing?
She's doing great.
Good.
Aside from, sleep is what sleep is right now.
You get it when you can.
Yeah, I know.
Now, your oldest birthday is when?
Today.
How about that, man? You got all kinds of applause
today. I know. Yeah. So
wow. Having a party?
Yeah, we are.
Good.
We're going to go over to my in-laws' place and have a couple people over and have some pizza and have a good time for her. So, yeah.
And then tomorrow, of course, Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Big plans for Thanksgiving.
My parents are hosting, so we always do kind of a joint Thanksgiving and joint Christmas. So my parents are hosting the Thanksgiving. So my in-laws will be over there, and my sister and her fiance, and me and Carolyn and the girls. And,
wow.
Yeah, so
so now, John, I heard you say pizza today at the birthday party. Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Yep.
I can't fathom seeing you eat pizza and then gorge yourself on Thanksgiving food back-to-back days, not even on the weekend. Will it happen?
Oh, it'll happen. Yeah.
Is there the go-to thing for Thanksgiving that John has to have?
I think my favorite out of everything has got to be the bread dressing.
Okay, yeah. I'm a big fan too.
Scalped corn is good too.
Scalped anything is pretty good.
Yeah.
Are you a cranberry guy?
Not so much.
Yeah. You're like about the fourth person I've talked to in the last 2 days.
Does anybody like
I do.
Okay.
I do, and I like fresh or canned. I have, and I've heard this from other people. They have the issue with the noise it makes coming out of the can.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. I just prefer gravy on the turkey a little bit better.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Gosh, I wonder if we should talk about some realty stuff.
Yeah, we can talk about real estate.
I'm one of ththose guys. I don't dicker. I don't know why. I see people do it all the time. I'm not the guy, and I use this analogy as, you'll see something for a quarter at a garage sale, and the people that'll go, will you take a dime for this?
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people. Yeah. But when it comes to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars maybe on a house, how do you lowball offer? And if you do, how can you even get them to take the lowball offer?
Yeah, so this is something that not very many people know about, so I think this will be helpful to the people listening out there. So a few things to consider when you're considering trying to get a great deal on a place and trying to get a big discount. What are the market conditions like? Is it even possible with the current market conditions? Mm-hmm. If there's a time of year that you're going to have a chance at getting a big discount in Grand Forks, it's going to be probably between November and February, right?
Okay.
So that's just because there's fewer people moving, there's fewer buyers in the market, so you're a little bit more valuable as a buyer in the market.
Sure.
We're still in a seller's market technically, but when you see listings kind of going stale this time of year, there's a chance that the sellers are motivated where they really do need to sell it. Mm-hmm. But sometimes a buyer thinks that they can make lowball offers, but they're really not in a position to be able to have any success making lowball offers. So they're just kind of spinning their wheels and wasting their time. So I'm going to go through, first off, if you're going to make a lowball offer, you have to be prepared to be really flexible with your other terms. What that means is you need to try to make it a win-win. Mm-hmm. You're trying, the big ask that you're asking for is a discount on the price.
Yep.
Right? So if you go and you ask for a discount on the price, but then you still want your inspection contingency and you still want your appraisal contingency and financing contingency, and you have a set date when you have to move in, mm-hmm. and you really want them to leave the washer in the dryer, and you want them to make some repairs before closing. That's just
sounds like you're kind of asking for the world there, John.
So you need to try to sweeten the deal in some of these other ways. besides just asking for everything.
Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay?
And you do have to make sure that you are, in order to get a good deal on something like a fantastic deal, way better than typical, it has to be the right seller too. You're not going to go in and lowball a home that just hit the market that's getting 5 showings a day and has the potential to get multiple offers.
Sure.
That's not going to be your target listing that you're going to want to lowball.
Okay.
If your goal is to get something for well below asking and hopefully well below market value, what you probably should pay closer attention to are those homes that have been sitting for a very long time.
Right, right.
Maybe they've price reduced aggressively. That might give an indication that they're a very motivated seller, and they're probably not getting that much action if they've been sitting on the market for quite a while. So you are in a position to be able to come in and save the day, even if your offer's low. Like we talked about, offset that offer being low by being flexible with their terms.
Sure.
Sometimes I've even seen where somebody's buying something and it, maybe kids have inherited a home and there's a whole bunch of like furniture and stuff in there that the kids don't know what to do with. I've seen people buy a house and tell them, hey, you can leave whatever you want in the house. We'll address it after closing. You don't even need to clean it out. You don't need to get rid of all the stuff.
Another
Other
incentive
little ways to give them, offer them some convenience here or there. Let's say it's really, they have to get out of this place fast. They need their money fast. Being able to do a very quick closing. I'll get more into that in a second.
Okay.
Or let's say that they have to be able to stay in the home for a while. Just accommodate them on their closing date. Like I mentioned, accommodating them on like the move out procedure. Be flexible on that. The terms are probably the most important thing when you're when you want to actually have a chance at getting your lowball offer accepted. So the terms, obviously we're asking for a low price, but let's look at the other terms that matter to sellers. So I'll go from best to worst with the most typical terms of a home purchase. Absolute best is all cash, no contingencies. You have the ability to close quickly if you want. You can close, take a while if you need to. You're able to be as flexible as possible. The only thing that has to get done is the title work. So you could probably close within 2-3 weeks if you needed to. Okay. There's no contingency. So there's no inspection where they're going to get beat up with additional repairs or where you could back out. There's no appraisal where if that came in low, which is unlikely if you're lowballing them anyway, but where you could back out. It's a sure deal since it's all cash, no contingencies. You've showed them that you've got the cash in the bank. Second best, I would say this falls. So that's absolute best. This is still pretty good. You're financing it, but there's a financing contingency and no other contingencies. So you have enough cash in the bank to cover any appraisal shortfall needed. So you don't have an appraisal contingency. You aren't asking for an inspection contingency. No other contingencies aside from your financing contingency. This is a pretty clean offer. You're probably going to have a pretty good, you never have a really good chance of getting a lowball offer accepted, but this is your second best odds to all cash, no contingencies.
Okay.
This one would fall, the next one here would fall under the okay category. It's not amazing, but it's not bad either. Financed with a financing contingency and an appraisal contingency, no other contingencies. So basically no inspection contingency. It's one, you could still run into issues with the appraisal. You could still run into issues with the financing. So it's not as sure of a deal as all cash, no contingencies, but you're in a position to be able to ask, you're in a position to have a decent chance. And for most people, this is all they can do. If they're trying to lowball a house is, financing contingency, appraisal contingency, no other contingencies. Unless you got a ton of cash in the bank, this is the best you're going to be able to do. So if you're thinking about lowballing houses, think about offering these terms for the average person who can't do cash. Now we're going to talk about this one the next one here would fall under the bad category. So financed with a financing, inspection, and appraisal contingency. So this is just a typical offer. This is what the majority of offers come in at. Things could go wrong during the inspection. Things could go wrong during the appraisal. It's not that sure of a bet for the seller. You can't close fast because it's financed. Financing could fall apart. It's just kind of your typical offer, and you're probably not going to have very much success getting a crazy lowball if you're asking for that inspection contingency plus appraisal, contingency, financing, everything. And then another bad one would be financed with a financing contingency, inspection contingency, appraisal contingency, and it's contingent upon the successful closing of the house you're currently living in. So the house you're currently living in is under contract. You're just waiting to close.
Yep.
It's contingent upon that deal successfully going through as well. Just another thing that could go wrong. And then the absolute worst one, where you're going to have the least likelihood of success with lowball offers, is financing contingency, inspection contingency, appraisal contingency, and it's contingent upon listing and selling your old home. This would be known as a home sale contingency. You are going to have a hard time really getting much of a discount anywhere with this sort of contingency. And what a lot of people, so there's so many unknowns here. The biggest unknown being that you still have to list and sell your house. You don't know how long that's going to take. You don't know if it's going to sell at all. And that's all stuff that weighs into the seller's decision on if they're going to accept your offer or not.
So when you see a house, John, that has been on the market for a long time, do we just assume that they want too much for it? Is that usually the case? Or is it maybe you open up the door and you walk in and go, holy buckets, I'm not going to move in here?
Could be both.
Okay.
Yeah, usually that's the assumption. That's the stigma around it.
Because everybody thinks their stuff is worth more than it probably is.
Yep.
Or am I not thinking right there?
No, that's true. That's kind of the real estate
wishful
agent's job.
thinking, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's possible that it's priced fairly now, but they just started way too high. So they've price reduced multiple times aggressively, and now they're actually listed for market value, where they're asking a pretty fair price, and there isn't much of anything that's wrong with it. But it's just sat for so long that now the reason it's not selling is because of the stigma for sitting for so long and starting too high on the price, where they're just not getting that attention that the new listings that are fairly priced are getting. And on top of what we mentioned, those few different sets of terms that from best to worst, some other things that make it harder to get a big discount are asking for closing costs from the seller, asking them I offer you $135, but I'm asking for $5,000 back and to cover my closing costs. That's another example.
I did something similar to that.
It's not the type of terms you want to ask for if you're really trying to lowball a place. Not being flexible on your closing date. If you're just going to stick to that closing date and you're unwilling to negotiate that, it's going to be more difficult to get the price you want. Asking for repairs to be made, and then additional contingencies, whatever that might be. It could be contingent on, I'm trying to think of another example that we didn't cover. Nothing's coming to mind right now.
Sure. I mean, I did the similar thing because the house I bought needed flooring, new flooring. And so I cut a check. I got a check cut back.
Yep.
As soon as they got the one, it worked out good. So if somebody wants to retain you, I don't know if that's the correct word, realty expert John Brodeen, and they're looking for a house, I would imagine you could tell them, this would be a great house to try to lowball.
Yeah.
But you kind of know that going into things because, well, that's what you do.
Yep. And sometimes so if they want to get a hold of me and they want to start working together, I can fill them in on some of this stuff and give them additional details that we didn't cover here. I can also tell them whether their situation is, if they're in a position where they really can expect to have success lowballing, or if they're really just going to be wasting their time and they need to go kind of a more traditional route.
Okay.
Like if you have the ability to purchase with all cash, quick closing, and no contingencies, and you're fine with houses that aren't perfect, maybe you're willing to do some fixing up, that's probably the perfect person to be able to potentially get something for well below market value. If you need closing cost assistance, you're using an FHA loan, so it has to be in pretty good condition, at least on the exterior. And if you're dead set on a certain closing date, and you want to do an inspection contingency, it's got to be contingent on appraisal, and it's got to be contingent upon financing. You're not in a position where you're going to have that much leverage to be able to get somebody way, way, way down.
Folks, it all starts with getting a hold of a realty expert like John Brodeen with Berkshire Hathaway. John, how do we get a hold of you?
701-213-5428 is my cell phone number. Check me out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm putting out content on all of those platforms all the time that it's valuable to buyers and sellers out there.
All right. You have yourself a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the new baby again. And we'll talk Friday morning, day after. We're going to have a turkey hangover, man.
Yeah, I know.
All right. There you go. That's your Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast, the Wednesday edition. He'll be back again Friday morning, realty expert John Brodeen. Until then, have yourself a great Thanksgiving.